Good morning, Stacey Ashley here. It's a long weekend in Australia, but I really wanted to take an opportunity to go live to just explain a couple of concepts that have been playing on my mind and I think could be really helpful. So welcome if you're live. If you are watching the recording, then I would love to know whether this resonates with you and how it might help. I'm just going to right now check my stream to make sure that I'm live. Multi-streaming again today. All right. Oh, it's a little bit slow, but let's see. Excellent. Okay, so we're live. So what I wanted to do is just to talk about, some of the practicalities of being a leader at the moment when we still have so many unknowns in the situations that we're leading, whether it's ourselves, whether it's our team, whether it's our organization, there are still a lot of unknowns and there's not a lot of clarity necessarily on, what the world will look like in, a year or 2 years or 3 years in terms of the world of work and business and the different work modalities and leadership and all those sorts of things. And so I just wanted to share with you, as I said, a couple of things that have been kind of percolating, I guess. So I'm just going to turn off my banner here so I've got a bit more screen space. So just to recap, for those of you that might have seen this before or perhaps not, I just want to recap about kind of the three general responses from leaders during COVID and during the pandemic and during the change circumstances. And then I want to talk to you about how you might be able to find a way forward. So I'm just going to put my iPad up here. There we go. All right. So if we think about what's been going on in terms of a leader, it's been pretty challenging to figure out, what to do, basically, because we've got this unprecedented situation, which is still unfolding, although we're seeing restrictions starting to relax in certain parts of the world and that sort of thing. There's still a lot of unknowns. We don't know how quickly things are going to move. We don't know how long restrictions are going to continue. We don't know the long-term impacts in our organisation, in our industry, globally, and so on. And so what that has generated is kind of three primary types of responses from leaders to this situation. And I want to thank Simon Bowen for, I guess, just crystallising this in a beautiful model that I want to share with you, just so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. And in the second part of the live, I want to talk to you about wherever you are in those three responses, what you can do from here to find a way forward that's constructive, and involves a bit of taking action, because sometimes we get stuck in knowing whether to take action or not. So in terms of thinking about the current situation, we've kind of got, I'll say we started certainly in Australia around about March 2020 was when we really started to feel the impacts of the shutdown and the quarantine and the isolation. So I'll just draw a couple of things here on my iPad. So this is kind of March 2020, and then we've got a point in the future, if this is time. Oh, there we go. Oh, and my iPad's just dropped off, so let me see if I can get that up. That's very frustrating. Okay, is that up there now? Let me see. Oh, I'm just going to move it out the way. Oh, screen share. And application window. There we go. All right. So I'm hoping you can now see my iPad. All right. And so we've got a point in the future, which we'll call March 2023. All right. So during this time, we've got from when we started this situation to, let's say, 0.3 years in the future. We know most change, evolves over a longer period. So 3 years seems a reasonable point. There's going to be a point at which most, teams and organisations are going to either they're going to reach that point of survival or not. And I don't know where that's going to be. It could be 12 months' time, 18 months, 24 months, who knows? So it's in the future. That's all we know. So we've got this kind of survival line, if you like. Okay, and depending on how we respond as leaders to the change in our situation, to the present conditions, will determine whether we make the survival line, whether we take our teams and our organizations through to survival, and whether we're set up to be able to thrive, or to simply exist, or to, in fact, not survive at all. So really, really simply, so the first kind of response, and you've probably seen variations of this, but this is just kind of a bit of scene setting. So welcome if you're live. And I'm talking at the moment about the 3 general responses to, as leaders, to the current conditions. And then I want to give you a technique for being able to move forward. So I can notice a few people on the live. So if you've got any questions or comments, please let me know. I'm just going to check my feed. And it's just, there we go. So I've got a few people there. And Rob, if I can see your comments there, this is, you're not on a list, you're simply connected. And so that's why it's popped up in your feed. Okay, so the 3 approaches, or 3 kind of general responses to from a leadership perspective. So the first one is, there are leaders who they don't know what to do, and so they've kind of frozen. They haven't really known how to take action, and so that's kind of that fright response and freeze response. And so what that means is they're not taking a lot of action now because they're not 100% sure what to do, and as a consequence, there's no readiness. There's no thinking about strategically what do we need to be able to do in the future, and that sort of thing. And so that kind of freeze response is going to result in not making the survival line. Okay, and of course that's really not what we want. And my iPad's disappeared again, so I apologize for that. Makes it kind of hard to draw. Okay, I'm just going to get that back up again. And then the second response that I want to talk to you about is that it's people who they're not 100% sure that they're taking action, and then they're not taking action. You know, they kind of go one way, then they go the other. They're often, I guess you would kind of say it's almost like a hoarding response. We don't know what to do, so we're going to do a lot of activity, but it's actually not about moving us forward. It's just about kind of keeping us in the same space. And so this kind of response, there is action, but it's not necessarily kind of directed action or focused action. It's kind of a bit of this and a bit of that, and you know, we just try and look after ourselves and make sure we're okay. And it's not necessarily, it's not that there's not good intent behind it. It's just a lack of really knowing what to do in order to actually be able to prepare us for the future. And so we kind of end up with this sort of a result. And what that means is that these teams, these organizations, they will survive, they will hit the survival line, but they'll basically be in the same place that they started. So they're not ready to take advantage of any opportunities that are going to exist, you know, in the new future, in the world as it will be. And so I'm going to quickly draw this because I don't want my iPad to disappear again. And then we've got the third type of leadership response, and we've seen it kick in either immediately or start to kick in, you know, since that early days of quarantine and isolation and change and all those sorts of things. And so these are the leaders who have been taking, you know, constructive action, strategic action, which may be about how to consolidate their organisation right now so that it will survive. And that may include making decisions about standing down and things like that, because they want an organisation that's going to be positioned, ready to take advantage of opportunities in the future when we kind of hit that survival spot. And the early decisions mean that we're going to be positioned to be able to take advantage of that in the future. It might be about those organisations that are, you know, doing things like learning and development and investing in capability. It might be about those organisations that the big word pivot. They've looked at what are the options and opportunities right now, but not just for right now, but also for the future. So it's not just about making decisions and taking action for now. It is about being prepared for the future. And so these leaders are kind of getting ready. So when they hit the survival line, those options are there, and they are ready to be able to take advantage of them. So that's the first thing I wanted to share with you was, really how the leadership responses, and it's very generalized, but you kind of get the idea. So early days, if we say this is kind of March of this year, early days, it actually looks, I'll just use a different color here. This actually looks quite similar. There's not a lot of difference in terms of what you would actually see as an outside observer looking at what the leaders are doing, or the decisions that they might be making. But the impact is how it shows up over the longer term. And so whether we meet the survival line and whether we go past the survival line, individually, team, organisation, industry. And so what we want to do as leaders, of course, is to be able to do as much as we can now that sets us up for the future. The challenge, though, I find is, well, how do you know what that should be? Because we've got so many variables and we've got so many things that are changing, so many things that are outside our direct control, perhaps more so than usual, because we've got, imposed restrictions, and we've got, real changes in what is the most important thing to do. And so what I found is, in talking with leaders, that can contribute to the freeze kind of response, or the up and down response. One day we go this way and one day we go that way. And so what I want to do is to just give you a way of maybe breaking through that, so that as a leader, you've actually got a way to figure out, like, what do I do? And I'm just checking my feed to see if there are other comments. Manesh, great to have you there. So I would love to know for you, what have you observed in terms of maybe yourself or the leaders around you in terms of your response as a leader to the current scenario? Yeah. So let's have a look at what you can do. So if you find that there are moments, and it may not be all the time, but if you find there are moments, let me just take that back down. If you find there are moments, and goodness, it's disappeared again. Let's get that up. Apologies for those who are on the live. That's not what normally happens, but technology is a wonderful thing. We just have to get it working sometimes. Okay, so get my application window up. There we go. Okay, so we're back. So there are some people who have stayed in their zone. They're frozen, they've been in that up and down, or they've been strategic. But more often what I find is that leaders actually, they've got kind of a strategic direction, but on a given day, they may feel like, I actually don't know what to do. And so they kind of get into that frozen state, that freeze state, just for a little while. Or you do find that you're kind of zigging and zagging and not sure what is the right thing to do. So I just want to give you a quick technique today to maybe help to kind of break out of that. So it's very simple. It's traffic lights. And for most of you, you'll be familiar with the concept of traffic lights, right? And so we've got, and I'm going to just, I'll share with you how you might apply these. If I could draw a circle, there we go. Duplicate. So 3 traffic lights. All right. And this is about looking at anything. It might be about looking at yourself. It might be about looking at your team. It might be about looking at projects or meetings or reports. And it's a really, really simple process. So if you don't know where to start and you think, gosh, I don't know what to do about our projects. So do a really simple process. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with your team. What projects should we stop? What projects should we continue? And what projects should we start? So really, really simple. And it gives you a great basis to be able to figure out what to do. So what do we stop? What do we continue? And what do we start? Yeah, so really, really simple process that you can apply to lots of things. So if you're like, okay, we had a strategic plan, but now we don't have a kind of a strategic plan, or we're not sure how our strategic plan stands up in the new conditions, then look at your strategic plan and go, okay, so what in this strategic plan just doesn't make sense anymore? What do we need to stop? What are the things that we need to continue because they make sense and we need to do more of that? And what things are new that we need to introduce? What do we need to start because of the changes? So that would be one application. And I should do a shout out to Sally Foley-Lewis, because this was a topic that we discussed in my Leading Possibility interview with Sally as my guest last week. And the importance of actually having a way to help leaders to actually kind of break through this, the noise, but also the I'm not sure where to start. Yeah. And so it could be meetings. Okay. I've got too many meetings and I don't know which ones to keep and which ones not to keep and which was adding value and those sorts of things. So again, which ones stop because they add no value? Which ones continue because they're useful? And which ones do we need to start because we need to focus on something else? Reporting, exactly the same thing. Behavior. So in our team, what behaviors need to stop because they don't serve us? What behaviors need to continue because they support our values and what's important to us? And what behaviors need to start, because that's how we actually want to be in our team. There's lots and lots of opportunities to apply this very simple approach. So, there you go. That's a really simple technique to help you to get out of a freeze state or out of a kind of a flight state of going back and forth with no clarity on, is this the right thing to do or is that the right thing to do? So if you need to know where to start and you're not sure how to, then just use that simple traffic light approach. What needs to stop? What needs to continue? What needs to start? And I would love to hear from you. Does that help, and how does that help you, and what sort of circumstances or situations might you be able to apply that to? Even from a personal perspective as a leader, if you look at all the things that you have to do, and there will be lots of them, which of them are not serving you? So which ones stop because it's not a great use of your time, there's not a lot of return, that's not adding any value? Which ones need to continue because they're serving you, they're value adding, they make an impact, make a difference? And which ones do you need to start because that's actually the things that are going to elevate the impact that you make, the focus on the important things, that sort of thing. So you can apply this at your own level, the team level, project level, organization level. And of course, you don't have to do this on your own. You can brainstorm this with your team, tap into all their great ideas and thoughts and experience and expertise, and get them to contribute to what needs to stop, continue, and start. Alrighty. So I'm glad my iPad has played properly there for that last little bit. It's super important that as a leader, you are leading, that you are making decisions, you're making choices, and you're taking action, and you're giving that direction to the people around you. They're looking for leadership. Everyone is looking for leadership now, no matter where you are, whether you're hierarchically the most, the least senior person, or whether hierarchically you're the most senior person. Everyone's looking for direction. And this is a really great way of creating direction. So stop, start, and continue. And you can apply it to lots and lots and lots of different realms, I guess. So I hope that's helpful. And if you are finding that you are stuck, or you are procrastinating, or you're just not sure what to do next, hopefully that little technique will help you to move forward. So I'm going to finish up there, but I'd love to know your thoughts and comments and questions. Just pop them pop them into the comments, and I'll come back to you over the next couple of days as they pop up there. Otherwise, if you're in Australia, enjoy the rest of the long weekend, and if you're not, have a good work day, and I'll be talking to you again soon.